Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a follow-up video for the Inquisitor, and you may have noticed that we have committed completely to Lightning Arrow. It just seems to pack a punch a little bit faster, a little bit harder than Ice Shot, but if you prefer Ice Shot, it's honestly hard to notice if you're not looking for it as to which one you're actually using. And I did try out whether or not I'm using GMP or Fork, and not much of a difference either. GMP just feels a little bit nicer to have a bigger spread on most maps, whereas Fork is going to feel a bit nicer on some tunnel maps. And if you can get an Awakened Fork or an Awakened Chain, then that's going to fuck the most amount of ass out of all of those supports. But the character overall is going pretty well, or went pretty well rather. Voidfletcher, the big blue explosions, don't do too much during clear. As you can notice, it's usually kind of an after the fact bit of damage, but on burst damage, on single target, who boy does it like just about double your damage for that little bit of burst. So the character doesn't have the biggest single target I've ever had, I don't think, or even this league. I think the Bladestorm probably did more, but it does potentially have the biggest burst, where for a good 2 to 3 second window we can deliver more damage than potentially any other dude I've had. But if you have to attack for longer than that, it starts to tail off, and the fact that we don't have reusable flasks like the Pathfinder does means that it's not going to be as good for the extremely large boss fights. For any other normal content, like we're talking Conquerors, Cirrus, Uber Elder, whatever, it's completely fine. It's just the really beefy content I'm talking about, like maybe a Wave 20 Kosis, maybe some really deep delve, though I didn't have any issues with the simulacrums on the character. I'm just saying that I think there's potential to be issues there. Or essentially, if maybe you can't get your character up to the same level of DPS as mine, then you will potentially suffer through some of the longer boss fights as not having enough sustain. Whereas the burst should carry you pretty damn hard. That said, the sustain isn't even that bad. You have some pretty good life gain on hit, you can still dodge, you can still play the bow character as a bow character, and the damage is still pretty damn respectable. It's just not the biggest ever, is what I'm trying to get at. Overall, the character was very close to becoming Build of the League status character, but I think just that little bit of sustain, as I've been using the word, is what would make it not the best possible. But it's damn close. It's a really good mapper. It has some really good clear. It can do delve rather efficiently. Was even doing my depth 500, etc., and some of the really tough nodes, though those aren't particularly fun. And then the single target and the burst is pretty damn satisfying. Just about every boss up till tier 16, and including tier 16s, just dies instantly, and only the Conquerors and the Guardians and stuff last for a little bit longer, but I'm pretty surprised with how much damage. For example, this is a Metamorph, gone from a tier 15, I think. Most Metamorphs, if you get a good crit, look something like that. Yeah, I'm surprised how much damage a Galvanic Arrow, and then I guess Voidfletcher combined. Given the fact that the travel of the tree is just so extensive, you get actually such little damage, and you get such hard carry from using just your 3 auras, your Wrath, Anger, beefing them up a bit, a few little cluster jewels that beef your damage, and I guess the Warcry isn't too bad as well. You can definitely go harder on the Warcry stuff if you really want. This is an example of simply using it for Rage, which is only 5 at a time, so I didn't even get a second Warcry jewel to get 10 Rage at a time, which I usually do if I want to sustain Berserk a bit more often. But I haven't been trying to sustain Berserk at all. I'm just using it as a sort of a boss fight button press, but you can definitely build more into sustaining Berserk, which would be a smoother playstyle, I think. But I didn't want to lean too heavily on the Warcries this time around, since it didn't seem all that necessary. So I guess all else I'll say is that you can use a Death's Opus as well. I plugged in the numbers, it's maybe like 20-30% less damage than my current bow, but you could also try and craft a bow something like mine, and maybe you'll have some level of success. But that's the character. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.
And this is how I prefer to play with a right click, but I'm not used to it right now, so I'll see if I can do it.
The suffering of my fellow citizens will finally stir something.
Takes so long to generate 50 rage with one war cry jewel.
Obliteration! You are nothing!
Yeah.
Is this a real challenge? You've finally caught my attention. Die.
Oh, that was a good phase. That seemed much better than yesterday. I don't know if I just timed it better or some shit, but fuck. That was much better than yesterday. I'm so much more in tune with a right click as my main skill than an R, but yeah. When you got two skills, you can have two skills.
The others found strength in their projections. They reliant on it. Die.
Beyond, there is only horror. Your lives are
Backed. Range charge is recharging. It's a war cry jewel. The war cry jewel has 5 rage every time you war cry, and also treats your war cries as always having at least 10 enemies, which means I'll always generate endurance off of endurance charge. Which I think I just wasn't flasking at all yesterday, right? And on that note, I have to not press 5. So it might Okay, it would be good. True. Okay. Okay. Hopefully I can get a nice clean DPS phase in, but I don't know when I'm supposed to blow my load. So hard to know. I think I'm still doing it at the start.
feel the thrill of the void.
I don't know where he is. Oh.
There is only horror.
I lost track of him. Wow. Ah, for fuck's sake. And this angle is awful. Oh my god, we're still going.
Everlasting.
But I want to win. Kinda had him pinned for death though. Oh no. Whew. It was clean, but also felt somewhat dirty in my pants. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. Cirrus, this was all my fault.
20 pack size. That's gotta be at least dozens of exalts. Dozens, I say.